right, so today we're doing two lessons. We're doing lesson 1-5 and lesson 1-6. Lesson 5 is divide whole numbers by fractions, and lesson 1-6 is divide fractions by fractions. Okay? So in the warm-up, we have two problems. It says 2/3 times 3/2. Now remember, when we're multiplying fractions, we just multiply straight across, right? So this is going to be 6/6, which is equal to 1. Over here, when we multiply straight across, that's going to be, what, 35/35, which is equal to 1. Now, what do we call these fractions that when we multiply them, they give me 1? The product is going to be 1. What do we call those? What we call that is reciprocals. Please make sure you write that down in your notes. Reciprocals are any two numbers whose product is 1. Another name, let me put this up here. Okay, so reciprocals. Another name for the reciprocal is the multiplicative inverse. The multiplicative inverse. Okay? So if you look at 5/7, the reciprocal of 5/7 is 7/5. So what do you think the reciprocal is? The reciprocal of the number of a fraction is what? What do you think? So the reciprocal, the way we get the reciprocal is you just flip that fraction. So the reciprocal of 5/7 is 7/5. The reciprocal of 2/3 is 3/2. Is everybody clear with that? Example 1 is reciprocals. So here we want to know what can we multiply to get the product of 1. So for 5/7, what did we multiply?
75.
Right. 7/5. So the reciprocal, 7/5, is the reciprocal of 5/7. Now, look at this one. What am I going to multiply times to get 1? So, for the whole number, in order to make it a fraction, we can just put this over 1. Very good. So, when we flip that, the reciprocal is 1/5. And when we multiply that, that's 5/5, which gives us 1 whole. So, on example B, we have 4 divided by 1/2. 4 divided by 1/2. So now we're getting into the division, okay? Now, if we are dividing by a fraction, so 4 divided by 1/2 means how many 1/2 pieces can I get out of 4 whole pieces? Does everybody understand that? So that's what that means. How many 1/2 pieces can I get out of 4 whole pieces? So when we show that, let me show it using my dotted line here. You've got half, cut that into half, cut this into half, and this one, and this one. Is everybody good? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the answer here, yes, is 8. Now my question to you is, how do I get that 8 over there? Looking at 4 divided by 1/2, how do I get this 8? So you're multiplying this 4, you're multiplying times that 2 down there in the denominator, right? So let me see here. Let me see if I understand this correctly. We're going to multiply, let's just put this 4 over 1, okay? So we want to multiply, so 4 over 1, we want to multiply times 2 to get the 8, right? So that's going to be 2 over 1, and that's going to give me the 8 that we said. Is everybody clear? So what did we just multiply by? We were multiplied by 2 over 1, which is what to the 1/2? It's the reciprocal. We just talked about it. This is the reciprocal, right? We just talked about that. So the 2 over 1 is the reciprocal of the 1/2. Is everybody with me? So the way we divide by fractions is that we multiply by the reciprocal of the second fraction. Let's write that down. So to divide fractions, we multiply by the reciprocal of the second fraction. Now, knowing our rule, I want you to answer this. How do we multiply this? How do we how do we divide this? So this is 2 divided by 1/3. So here, you guys, when we are dividing a whole number by a fraction, we write the whole number as a fraction, 2 over 1. The division becomes multiplication, and the 1/3, the second fraction, becomes the, what's it called? Reciprocal. Very good. So that's 3 over 1. So that gives us 6 over 1, which is equal to 6. Example 2 is divide a whole number by a fraction. So this is the steps that we're going to go through the steps here. So the first step is to write the problem. Okay? First step is to write the problem. Always write your original problem. Okay? All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to write the whole number as a fraction. So we're going to write 3 over 1 divided by 3/4. So this is what we did. We just write the whole number as a fraction. Okay? Make sure you write down your steps on the side. Next, we multiply by the reciprocal. Okay? So when we multiply by the reciprocal, we write 3 over 1. Division becomes multiplication, and the reciprocal of 3/4 is 4/3. If you can, you will simplify before you multiply. So we're just going to do this on that problem, okay? Can I simplify before I multiply? Yes, what can I divide? The 3 and the 3. Remember, it has to be 1 in the numerator and 1 in the denominator. So here, 3 divided by 3 is 1. And here, 3 divided by 3 is 1. Is everybody with me? And now, we multiply the numerators and multiply the denominators straight across. So 1 times 4 is 4, and 1 times 1 is 1, so that gives me 4 wholes. So here, I'm going to have you guys do this with your table partners. I'll give you about 2 minutes, maybe 3, to divide 7 and 14/15 and 4 divided by 2/5. 7 divided by 14/15 and 4 divided by 2/5. So again, when we are dividing fractions, we are going to make the whole number into a fraction, and we will multiply by the reciprocal of the second fraction. So here, we've got 7 over 1, multiply, so the division becomes multiplication, and the 14/15 becomes 15/14. And of course, before I multiply, I can simplify. Very good. We can simplify the 7 and the 14. So 7 divided by 7 is 1. 14 divided by 7 is 2. And then when we multiply straight across, we get 15 over 2. And that's an improper fraction we want to change to a mixed number. So, how many times does 2 go into 15? How many times does 2 go into 15? 7 times. With how many left over? 1. So this is 7 and 1/2. For the second one, again, 4 over 1. The whole number becomes a fraction. The division becomes multiplication. And the 2/5 becomes 5 over 2, 5/2. And of course, before we multiply, we can simplify. So, 2 divided by 2 is 1. And 4 divided by 2 is 2. And then we will multiply straight across. So we get 10 over 1, which is equal to 10. Very good. Example 3 is divide fractions by fractions. So when we divide fractions by fractions, the rules and the steps are all still the same. Okay? Because we want the first number to be a fraction too, right? This one's already a fraction. So do I need to do anything different? Nope, everything is the same. So here, you guys, we are going to rewrite the first number. The division becomes multiplication, and the 4/5 becomes 5/4. Very good. And then we can simplify before we multiply. Always simplify before you multiply to make it easier, right? So 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. And then when we multiply straight across, we get 15 fourteenths. And now we can change that to a mixed number. How many times is 14 going to 15?
1.
With how many left over? 1. So that's 1 and 1/14. Is everybody clear? Let's do this next one. So here we've got 7/9. So the 7/9 stays the same. The division becomes multiplication, and the 2/3 becomes 3/2. Very good. And of course, before we multiply, we can simplify. The 3 and the 9, right? And we can divide both of those by 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 9 divided by 3 is 3. And then we can multiply straight across. So 7 times 1 is 7. And 3 times 2 is 6. And then we can change again to a mixed number. 6 goes into 7 one time. With how many left over?
1/5.
Very good. So example 4 is find and interpret quotients. So Andrew has 5/6 pounds of trail mix. He needs to divide the mix into bags that can hold 1/9 pound. We want you to write and solve an equation. Okay? Now, when we're doing the division, remember, we want to know how many pieces can I get out of another piece, right? We have to know what are we starting with, okay? So when I look at this, are we starting with how much trail mix he has, or are we starting with the bags of trail mix? So we are starting with how many pounds of trail mix he has, right? So that's an important information. So he has 5/6 pounds of trail mix, okay? He wants to divide the mix into bags that can hold 1/9 pounds. So we want to know how many 1/9 bags we can get out of the 5/6. Does everyone understand that?
Yeah.
So we're going to start with the 5/6. 5/6. And we want to divide by 1/9. We want to know how many 1/9 bags we can get out of the 5/6. Make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So now we have our division problem. Now we just have to show our work. So the 5/6 stays the same. The division becomes multiplication. And the 1/9 becomes 9 over 1. Very good. Now, before we multiply, we can simplify. Very good. So the 6 and the 9 we can divide by 3. So 6 divided by 3 is 2. 9 divided by 3 is 3. And then when we multiply straight across, that gives us 15 over 2, which is equal to 7 1/2. What's my label going to be?
Pounds.
Not pounds.
Oh, no.
How many?
Bags.
Bags. So this is 7 1/2 bags. Now, are we gonna do a half a bag? No, that's just gonna be leftovers, right? So how many actual bags can he make? 7. This is all he has is half. He doesn't have enough to make 8, right? So he can make 7 bags, 7 1/9 pound bags. So example 5 says, find and interpret quotients. It says Jasmine is mixing paint colors. She needs 1/6 gallon for each new color that she is mixing. She has 3/4 gallon of blue paint. Write and solve an equation that models the situation. Then interpret the quotient. Okay? Remember, you need to decide what it is you're starting with. So for example 5, find and interpret quotients. It says Jasmine is mixing paint colors. She needs 1/6 gallon for each new color that she is mixing. She has 3/4 gallon of blue paint. We want to write and solve an equation that models a situation, and then we want to interpret the quotient. So again, you guys, the first thing you have to do, well, first let's write the important information. So let's say it says she needs 1/6 gallon for each new color that she mixes. Okay. Also says that she has 3/4 gallon of blue paint. Okay. So we want to write and solve an equation that models the situation. So we want to ask ourselves is, what is she starting with? Okay, so it says that she needs 1/6 gallon for each new color. She has 3/4 gallon of blue paint. So here she is starting with 3/4 gallons. Okay, so she's starting with 3/4 gallons. Now, we want to know how many 1/6 gallons can she use of that 3/4 gallon to make her new paint. So that tells us that we're going to divide 3/4 divided by 1/6. That's our problem. So here, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So the 3/4 stays the same. The division becomes multiplication, and the 1/6 becomes the reciprocal, which is 6 over 1. Now, before we can multiply, we should try to simplify. And we can do that with the 4 and the 6. Okay? So 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So when we multiply straight across, we end up with 9 over 2, which simplifies. Let's see, 2 goes into 9 4 times with 1/2 left over. So that says that she needs 4.5 new colors. So she's going to use 4.5 gallons, 4.5, not 4.5 gallons. She can make 4.5 new colors, but she can't make a half of a new color, right? So this is going to be 4.5 new colors. So she can't use this half gallon that's left over for the new colors. So she can only make 4 new colors. Okay, so that half is going to be a part of the leftovers. Okay, so that's it.